most difficult because you're attempting something which is known by everybody, but even if most of you may not know it, the encyclopedias are here. But yes, I am grateful to Professor Saxena, who in her introductory remarks did say that I am like a younger brother. I am grateful to Manisha ji for even thinking about me. I am grateful to both of them, not because they called me, they could have called anyone. Either way, I am not going to do a great service to this cause. But I am grateful to them because it is through them that I got connected with somebody with whom in the last 3 days I've been experiencing as if we met almost 30 years back. It's not a relationship of 3 days, and why is it that we connect so intensely that we go 30 years almost? ये 3 दिन 30 वर्षों के जैसे क्यों लग रहे हैं? It's primarily because we grew up in the same time. We just found out that we were just 2 years. He was just 2 years ahead of me. So we grew up in the same time, in the same space, in the same town. And I remember growing up, there was kind of a paradox in the sense that I studied in a school which was called Notre Dame. And Notre Dame had no space for these kind of discussions on caste, on class. It was an English medium school, a Catholic school. And when I would go back to my mohalla, I would come across caste and how the backwards were consolidating, and why is it very important for us to just somehow get rid of Munger and move out of Munger, get into Delhi, right? Incidentally, when I came to Delhi, that was also the year when the Mandal Commission was implemented in 1990, and there was a huge uproar in the campus. I think for the whole year, we never went into the classes. Our lessons that we learned in political science were actually delivered on the road because we learned hands-on. That hands-on learning, which is a must, is something that we got, fortunately, as I was in 1990 doing my first years at Ramdas College. I must tell you something, boys and girls, here. This is a challenge. Please don't buy this book. But if you were to buy this book, I challenge you not to read this book. It's such kind of an automatic thing that the moment the book gets into your hand, you will be compelled to read it. And when you read it, you'll keep diving deeper and deeper. The ripples will take you to the bottom of the sea. It's such a densely researched book, full of anecdotes. And I think Santoshji has successfully meandered his way back and forth, back and forth. It's not just about Karpoori Thakur, which he is a propagandist in the sense. It's more about how socialism came into the cradle of socialism, that's what we call Bihar, and how the socialist rhetoric was sought to be implemented, sought to be transformed into action. It is more about how did it succeed to start with, and how did it fail. It succeeded in the sense that it brought a conglomeration of leaders who were successful in dislodging the Congress hegemony. 1967 was not a mean year. किस प्रकार से समाजवादी आंदोलन ने पहली बार कांग्रेस के आधिपत्य को dislodge कर दिया. So that's a huge success. But it failed. It failed because it was built on a plank of caste and class which was short-lived. Incidentally, the leaders who tried to bring in the peasantry were people who were coming from the dominant castes. And this dominant caste, and I think Santoshji deals with it, how the dominant caste were softer towards the lower EBCs based on the Yajamani system. If you were to be in Bihar, you'll see that the Bhumiyars are happy with the Nais, but the Bhumiyars would not be happy with the Yadavs. And that's basically because you'll see that Yadavs are also very strong, very dominant as Bhumiyars are. Make no mistake, there are Bhumiyars who are poor, there are Yadavs who are poor, but Bhumiyars are as dominant and the Yadavs are as dominant. But see the coalition. That coalition is what is happening right now in Bihar as well. It's again an irony of times that Karpoori, who's known as, I think he's already mentioned it, what Lalu was to JP is what Nitish is to Karpoori and what Karpoori was to Lohia. Lohia in action, as he says. And look at it, Karpoori failed. Karpoori failed because he could not get along in that kind of extreme alliances, but Nitish has very deftly handled it. The alliances of the extreme, you can see a Rajiv Ranjan Singh standing by his side. I remember Rajiv Ranjan Singh called Lalan Singh challenged him at one point in time, and yet Nitish did not have the courage to flush him out of the party. He didn't do that. He kept waiting till the time Lalan Singh comes back to the fold, and now you can see how it's going along. Now that is what Nitish did so deftly, and that is why, look at it, he's been surviving in politics for the longest period of time. That's been, one could argue, Walter Hauser argues that maybe Nitish could do it because Lalu had already created that plank. Maybe the assertion of the strong OBC was there, maybe because Nitish himself comes from a stronger OBC caste, and therefore he is kind of in a situation where he can, deliberately play around it and ensure the stability of his government, whatever could be the reason. But I think it's very important at this point in time because you can see this, that if the socialist movement was the glue which brought in a lot of people together to dislodge the hegemony of the Congress, then I think it is also important that caste considerations are coming back, and not only coming back, but you'll see that it's also being sought to dislodge the hegemony of another giant at this point in time. Traveling through UP during the elections, बहुत साफ था कि जो जातीय राजनीति है वो फिर से एक बार गठबंधन की ओर बढ़ रही है। अनफॉर्चुनेट पार्ट ये है कि उस जातीय राजनीति के गठबंधन को वो कौन सा वैचारिक धारा है, वो कौन सा विचारधारा है जो उसको ग्लू प्रदान करेगा, जो उसको एक फ्रेम प्रदान करेगा। क्योंकि सबसे बड़ी बात है कि समाजवादी राजनीति के पुरोधा रहे हैं। Nitish perhaps is the last surviving, and it will be difficult, and I think it would be injustice to the cause of socialism to see him as a socialist leader any longer. Lalu Yadav has become weak, and I don't see any strong socialist leader, particularly in the heartland as such. आप अभी अकादमी तो पॉइंट मैं यही कह रहा हूँ कि अगर ये हो रहा है तो कैसे हो सकता है, ये सोचने वाली बात होगी, और ये किताब आपको इसलिए पढ़नी चाहिए। तीसरी बात, जैसा मैंने कहा, आई थिंक यू शुड हैव आस्क्ड मी, did Karpoori fail? I think that would be a wrong thing to say. He did not fail. Why did he not fail is because look at Karpoori, he was there only for 2.5 years as the chief minister. 2.5 साल से ज़्यादा था नहीं, वो भी total मिला के। There have been chief ministers before him who were there for the longer period of time. Siri Babu had a huge term. Nitish has a longer term. And there were socialist chief ministers. The book has very clearly mentioned that there are socialist chief ministers in other states. You had Hegre, you had Devi Lal, you had Charan Singh, you had many other leaders. You had Mulayam Singh Yadav, many socialist leaders. But what is important and what makes Karpoori more important is that he was the syllabus that every other person was reading. I think that is the formula. That is the formula of how you need to create that structure on which others will follow. I mean, why is he being brought back? Well, one reason is, to accommodate Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. That could be one reason. That's a very peripheral reason. I think he is being brought back because the Prime Minister himself is championing a kind of politics. A politics, at least symbolically, a politics of probity, a politics of integrity. And I think one reason why Karpoori lives in our images is because of the thing that he stood for, the probity that he stood for, the simplicity that he stood for. He did not allow power to go in his mind, and I think that's a big thing. Renouncers in politics have survived, and renouncers are the people who are praised. Gandhi was a renouncer. I think Karpoori was also a renouncer, or else if you think of the anecdotes Santoshji has already provided, think of it, the chief minister's father being forcibly taken up by the Thakur. Or think of it, you pass matriculation, I mean it's like I graduate from the University of Birmingham and someone says, "Aao go dabao." You know, this is something which is unimaginable. And as I said, Sivanand Tiwari would have countered, and he did counter. Right, because he was son of Ramanand Tiwari. The fact of the matter is, Karpoori was the first of his generation. And he did not tell you, but he is written that in the book, that when Karpoori got that slate, and he couldn't afford the tuition fee, he would stand at a distance. A teacher would offer private tuition to the people, and he would listen from a distance and say, well, he studied by listening to the teacher who was speaking at a distance. I think that is what makes him great, and that is why the other thing that makes Karpoori great is because of his belief in democracy. I don't know if I'm making a bland kind of an argument or not, but in this country, the fascination with equality and liberty is what this democratic process is about. I think Karpoori's life is a message of how resilience can turn into an ideological commitment. How poverty, how social discrimination, if that has to be, if you have to rise up to that, if you have to defeat it, you have to have a stern and you have to have a steely resolve. By the way, Dinkar was also a favorite poet of Karpoori, and Dinkar says, "Badha bigno ko jum jum, badha bigno ko jum jum." कुछ ऐसा पांडव आए थे और लिखा सौभाग्य न सब दिन सोता है. I think that is what Karpoori's life is about. That सौभाग्य, that democratic transformation, how democracy becomes a basis of empowering people. I think that is what this book is about. This is what full of anecdotes. Think of it. I think I was waiting that I was hoping that you would not speak about it, and you did not. Think of it. Is an emergency का समय है. कर्पूरी नेपाल की तरफ जा रहे हैं, भाग रहे हैं, और भागते भागते भुट्टे के खेत से गुजरते हुए भूख लगी है. भुट्टा तोड़ते हैं. हार्ट रेंचिंग इज इट. भुट्टा तोड़ते हैं, doesn't know what to do. कच्चा भुट्टा तो नहीं खा सकते. पास में कोई लाश जल रही है, उस लाश की आग पे इस भुट्टे को सेकते हैं और वो भुट्टा खाते हैं और अपनी भूख बुझाते हैं. Can you think of any of us doing all this? Can you think of we have all sorts of problems, we understand. Look at the kind of heart-wrenching things that the book puts you through, and then imagine the greatness of the person that Karpoori was. There are many. At one point in time in Bhagalpur, he is in jail. There is no sense of his coming out. And Karpoori's father-in-law thinks कि लगता है बेटी का दोबारा ब्याह करना पड़ेगा. It's almost certain that Karpoori would not come. But think of the freedom that's there in the lower caste in terms of mobility of women across, right? Now he's thinking that though Karpoori was not lucky this time, and he came back. The fact of the matter is, it's a very rigorously researched work. It situates Thakur in the larger political landscape of Bihar and the kind of politics Biharis do, based on interviews, historical documents, a lot of newspaper archives. I think the feather in the cap is the anecdotes that he provides. He presents Karpoori as a complex figure. He's not romanticizing Karpoori, but he's not also vilifying him. So I think it's a balanced work in that sense. The chapters are well written, interspersed with theories provided by great scholars, M.S.A. Rao, Francis Frankel, Walter Hauser, to just name a few. I think Jeffrey Gitso is another one. In fact, he's the one who's written the foreword of the book. I think people of your generation must read this book. And I think the most credible thing is that the department has organized this. When we were young, when we were your age, I remember Granny Austin had been invited by Professor Chandok to this department. And that was the year when the Jannayak Commission had come, and Austin had just come up with his new book on the working of a democratic constitution. When we heard things in that context, and the context is very similar. Remember, Karpoori has been brought back to the national mainstream. The press had forgotten Karpoori, and now Karpoori is back not in flesh and blood, but in ideas. I think the department deserves a lot of accolades for thinking of it. Manisha deserves a lot of accolades for having Santoshji here. I think the book is a fitting tribute to the legacy of Karpoori Thakur. It's a fitting tribute to why we must think of politics of Bihar in a different way. The other day I was on a TV channel, speaking on a TV channel, and I said, the most disheartening thing of Bihar is that we have still not been able to urbanize. Just 11% of urbanization happening in Bihar. I think we still remain muddled in caste politics. How do we come out of there? How do we design developmental paradigms? I don't understand what this Sushasana is about, because a Sushasana which doesn't increase the earnings of the people, which doesn't ensure that people do not migrate to other cities in the lookout for jobs. Bangalore, Hyderabad, Noida, I was talking to his Bhanja right now. Noida, full of us, full of all Biharis. I'm not saying that we should not be migrating. Yes, we should be migrating. But the compulsions by which and because of which we migrate to the other parts, I think it's right time that in the shadow of discussing those formidable ideas, we should think about it. And my heartfelt congratulations to Santoshji. I've already got a brother in him, a friend in him, and thank you, Manisha, for gifting his brother to me. Thank you so much.